Hello, I'm Cheryl McCarthy of the City University of New York. Welcome to One to One. In 2013, after numerous complaints that the New York City Police Department was not taking city traffic accidents seriously, then Police Commissioner Ray Kelly pledged to overhaul the Accident Investigation Squad. He promised to increase the number of officers in the unit and expand the types of crashes they investigated. He even changed the name to Collision Investigation Squad. But according to a recent New York Times article, little has changed in 5 years. The squad has fewer investigators and looks into fewer crashes than it did in 2013. All while Mayor DeBlasio insists he is very much committed to his Vision Zero action plan, which is intended to decrease traffic deaths and injuries on New York City streets. Our guests today are Mark O'Connor, Legislative and Legal Director at Transportation Alternatives, a nonprofit that strives to change the city's transportation priorities, and Karen Manrique, a member of Families for Safe Streets, who lost her 9-year-old son to a reckless driver in April. Welcome. Why don't you each tell me something about your organizations and what they do? Marco and then Karen.
Certainly, Cheryl. So Transportation Alternatives is a 45-year-old advocacy organization based in New York City. And we fight to make the streets of New York better for people walking, biking, and using public transit. And particularly in recent years, that has included fighting for safer streets. We have in the country as a whole and in New York City an epidemic of traffic violence. Across the U.S., nearly 40,000 people died in traffic last year. In New York City, more than 5,000 have been killed on city streets in traffic since 2001. And what we do is an effort to combat that, and it has included bringing to New York City essentially Vision Zero. Together with Mayor DeBlasio, we campaigned for Vision Zero to be brought to New York City when Mayor DeBlasio adopted it when he was a candidate. And the premise of goal of Vision Zero is not just to reduce the number of people killed in traffic, it is to bring it to zero, the number of people killed and seriously injured. And so in addition to Vision Zero, our work has included, together with Families for Safe Streets, to bring the citywide speed limit from 30 miles per hour to 25 miles per hour. And
is that what it is now?
It is now 25 miles per hour, with speeding and excessive speeds being the most critical factor in most traffic crashes and the leading cause.
Karen, tell me about Families for Safe Streets.
Well, I just joined the Family First about 5 months ago. That's when my son Giovanni passed away. So we try to help all the parents who lost their child in a car accident, try to make the streets, like the lights, not on, like the speed, try to put the speed cameras on all, like the streets, so no more reckless driver have to speed and kill another child. And now we're trying to have driver license also for elderly people, like to be examined. Not only the eye vision, but their health also too. Because the person who killed my son was 85 years old.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Now it's interesting, the figure, Marco, that you gave me. I think you said about 5,000 traffic-related deaths since 2001, because I was reading a press release from the mayor's office, and it suggested, these were released by City Hall early this year, that the number of traffic fatalities have been declining steadily at least since 2013. The figures from City Hall were 299 traffic fatalities in 2013, down to 214 in 2017. And primarily the reductions have been, while the fatalities have gone up for bicyclists, motorcyclists, and people in cars, that the primarily the decrease has been in pedestrian deaths. That's according to this report from City Hall. Is that not accurate, or?
So the mayor certainly deserves credit for the work that he and his Department of Transportation have done to reduce traffic fatalities. And we have seen traffic fatalities decrease during Vision Zero. And I think it points to the fact that we need to do more of what has been done. Because as good at it as it is, that we have seen those decreases, it is still unacceptable what we see on the streets, with more than 200 people dying every single year. And yes, pedestrian deaths have decreased over the last 18 months, but prior to that, most of the decreases in fatalities were actually among motorists, people driving cars and passengers, which we believe is significantly due to the lowered speed limit from 30 to 25 miles per hour.
You think that's the reason for fewer pedestrian deaths in the last 18 months?
So that was we believe, a significant reason for the lowered motorist fatalities since 2013.
Okay.
Over the last 18 months, we believe that other measures that the Department of Transportation have implemented have been likely the main cause of the lowered pedestrian fatalities.
What are some of those measures, do you think, that have contributed?
So two measures that I'll just share. One is what's called leading pedestrian intervals, which is a traffic signal timing where pedestrians get a head start and are allowed to walk across the crosswalk several seconds prior to cars being allowed to advance or to turn.
Right.
That's exactly what happened with Karen and Giovanni. They were walking in the crosswalk with the light, and a driver turned into their paths.
Okay.
The other measure are plastic bollards and other painting on the street that impose turning restrictions for drivers, so that drivers are essentially forced to slow down as they make turns, and have a better field of vision for potential pedestrians.
Karen, as I said earlier, in April, your 9-year-old son Giovanni was killed by a hit-and-run driver as the two of you crossed a street in Queens and a pedestrian crosswalk. So I'm assuming that the drop in pedestrian fatalities that there has been is of little comfort to you, or is it? I don't know.
It is, but like now my son is already dead, so, but at least, they get to save other kids crossing that street.
Is there anything that you feel city officials could have done to prevent the accident that killed Giovanni?
Yes. Why would an 86-year-old drive if the person is not feeling well? If the person doesn't have the capacity on driving? He just flew the scene, passing not only that light, but passing 4 more red lights. And I think if he wouldn't been driving, my son would still be alive.
Was there any indication that he was, like, I don't know, mentally or physically impaired or couldn't see, or do we know?
Well, I'm still waiting to go to court, so it's been getting postponed for since my son passed away, so.
Has he been criminally charged?
He was arrested for 24 hours only, and then he got bailed out.
Okay. And so this is in the courts, but he has been charged?
He has been charged as reckless driving.
Okay. Marco, I assume that bicycle fatalities are up partly because there are a lot more cyclists on the streets these days. Is that?
That is our understanding as well, yes. Bicyclist fatalities have increased. It's been somewhere around 20 every year. And unlike pedestrian and motorist fatalities, we have not seen decreases in bicyclist fatalities.
Right. I mentioned a number of statistics. and I'm sure you've seen a number of statistics. Are there some statistics what statistics worry you the most?
To me, so we at Transportation Alternatives and Families for Safe Streets take Vision Zero seriously. To us, zero is the goal. And so what worries me the most is that we're not on pace to reach Vision Zero in our lifetimes. At the current rate of reductions in traffic fatalities, we won't reach Vision Zero until after 2050. And we believe that it's possible.
2050.
Exactly.
You mentioned a couple of the steps that the city has taken in Vision Zero to reduce traffic fatalities. Are there others that you would like to talk about that you think have been helpful?
Absolutely. So what we are calling for right now is changes to streets citywide. And just to highlight Northern Boulevard, where Giovanni was killed, Northern Boulevard is becoming the new boulevard of death in Queens. For decades, Queens Boulevard was known as the boulevard of death in the borough, and an unacceptably high number of people were killed and injured every single year. Between 2013 and just a few years ago, 8 people died. But what the city finally did after years of advocacy by members of Families for Safe Streets, Lizzie Rahman, whose son was killed riding his bicycle on Queens Boulevard, even prior to the founding of Families for Safe Streets. Through that advocacy, the city finally implemented some of the changes that have been called for years. And some of those changes include narrowing the vehicle travel lanes so that motorists travel slower. It's a natural inclination that if you have a slightly narrower street, you drive more slowly. If you have a wide street, we are naturally inclined to press on the gas pedal. It includes changes like pedestrian islands that narrow the crossing distance and the time that you have to spend as a pedestrian in the
Trying to get across the street. Right.
Exactly, and it includes protected bike lanes, which makes it safer for bicyclists and also far safer for people driving and pedestrians.
And it's really worked on Queens Boulevard. There have been no deaths, for the last 3 years?
There has not been a single fatality on the redesigned parts of Queens Boulevard since those changes were implemented. And that's tremendous. We need to see the same life-saving changes implemented on Northern Boulevard and on other major arterial streets throughout the city.
Okay. We're going to take a short break, then we'll be back with Mark O'Connor and Karen Manrique after this message. Welcome back to One to One. I'm Cheryl McCarthy, and I'm talking with Mark O'Connor, Legislative and Legal Director for Transportation Alternatives, and Karen Manrique, a member of Families for Safe Streets. The City Hall report said traffic fatalities were down last year in all boroughs except for Brooklyn. What's happening in Brooklyn?
That's a good question. We don't know exactly what has happened, but some of the changes to the in-city intersections that have helped decrease pedestrian fatalities possibly could have been implemented to a greater extent in Brooklyn.
I am amazed that there are not more bus-related fatalities, given the high level of jaywalking, bikes weaving in and out of traffic, aggressive motorists in the city. It seems to me that New York City, maybe one positive thing, is New York City bus drivers seem to be especially well-trained and careful drivers. Do you agree or not? Any thoughts?
So our bus drivers in New York City are certainly among the best trained and safest drivers in the city. Professional drivers generally drive more safely. But with that being said, in 2014 alone, MTA bus drivers did cause 8 or 9 people to lose their lives, 9 people who were walking in the crosswalk with the light. And so as good as their training and their parts of their driving records are, we believe they should continue and possibly improve their training. And bus drivers will also benefit from the safety measures that the city is implementing.
I know there is some sentiment that is expressed from time to time that reckless drivers in New York City get away with murder when they cause fatal accidents, and get away when they cause accidents that don't result in death, but result in injury. Is this your view, Karen? Is it your view, Marco?
I think they should.
That they're not prosecuted?
Exactly. I don't know what it's what it's going on with the law, with the government, with everything, because they should get charged. They should pay for what they did, because we all human beings, and that they killed someone. They killed my son, who's 9 years old, and still waiting for that guy to get prosecuted, and still nothing. How many family members have to wait until they get charged, fully charged? I don't care if that person is 86 years old. He killed my son. He killed my 9-year-old boy. We woke up really happy. He was so happy, very excited to go to the movies until that driver. And what happened? He's still out in the streets, not paying for what he did to me and my family.
Is he still driving?
No, they took his license.
Okay. Marco, I know that there was a point at which the crash investigation squad tended not to investigate traffic accidents that were not fatal. A car might hit somebody, injure them, but there tended not to be an investigation. Is that, that's the information I had. Is that true? Is that still going on, or has that changed?
So we believe that the NYPD's Collision Investigation Squad, the CIS, investigates nearly every fatal crash in the city. And then they investigate a small fraction of the serious injury cases in the city. And that's where on that portion of the people who are seriously injured in the city, which is often more than 3,000 every single year who are seriously injured, an additional 50,000 who are injured in other ways. But those 3,000 serious injuries is where we believe the Collision Investigation Squad needs to get on board with Vision Zero and start investigating those crashes to the same extent that they investigate fatal crashes, which will help send the message that the type of necklace and reckless driving that Karen describes is unacceptable, and that there will be consequences, because we do see that inadequate investigations result in inadequate enforcement and penalties for drivers, and also makes it harder often for families and who have lost loved ones and other victims who have been seriously injured to actually obtain justice from insurance purposes to their civil suits and other areas.
Has the staffing of the crash investigation unit been beefed up since Ray Kelly's promises?
Beefed up, it certainly hasn't. Apparently, there was a slight increase in 2013 under Ray Kelly, but since then it seems that they are back to square zero, and the staffing of the CIS is woefully inadequate.
The city continues to install more bike lanes. That's a direction that at least 2 mayors have said we want to get more people out of cars and motorized vehicles and more people on bikes. Is this a good or a bad thing in terms of safety on the streets?
More protected bike lanes is one of the most important things that our city can do to protect not just bicyclists, but also pedestrians and motorists. They make the streets safer, they decrease traffic fatalities and serious injuries for all of those groups, and it makes us want to ride bicycles more, which is a good thing. We have rampant congestion in the city. We have a deteriorating public transportation system. The more people biking is better for everyone.
Now, I'm a bicyclist. I love riding my bike. But I know that some New Yorkers feel terrorized by bicyclists, weaving in and out of traffic, around the sides of buses, sometimes taking out pedestrians. Are there things that you would like to see done to prevent bicycle accidents? I mean, are there things you'd like, I don't know, more enforcement aimed at bicyclists or whatever? Are there things you'd like to see done? You have?
I think we should, protect more on the bicycle, put like not too close, like make it a little bit wider. So
the bike lanes?
Yeah, the bike lane. So they, all the bikers like yourself, they love to ride bike, they will be more protective. And, it will give them a little bit more space besides the bike lane and the cars who are driving on the other side.
Yeah. How about you, Marco?
Yeah, we think that everyone on the road should conduct themselves with safety in mind. And that means that bicyclists should adhere to rules and traffic safety laws just as motorists should. But the big difference between a person on a bicycle and a person driving a car is that when you hit someone with a car, you're very likely to kill someone. The same is not true with a bicycle.
Right.
Less than one person every single year, less than one person is killed from being hit by someone on a bicycle. And so the responsibility is much greater when operating a 4,000-pound lethal vehicle, and the city's enforcement should reflect that different degree of responsibility. And so while we still have inadequate enforcement from the NYPD against reckless and dangerous driving, causing the more than 200 people who lose their lives every single year and 70,000 injuries, we should increase enforcement more on that type of dangerous driving.
Talking about enforcement, the city is issuing more summonses for traffic violations, correct?
Absolutely. And so the NYPD has issued more summonses for speeding and failure to yield, which are the most common causes of injuries and fatalities, and that's good. But we need to see more. We also need to make sure that we get our state government on board with allowing more speed safety cameras, more failure to yield cameras, and all the other types of automated enforcement, with automated enforcement really being the most effective and equitable and fair way to make our city streets safer from an enforcement perspective.
We have about a minute and a half left, and I just want to ask you, briefly, going forward, what kinds of activities or activism or whatever are your organizations planning or pushing in the interest of more traffic safety in the city?
We're trying to put more speed cameras, and like Marco said, try to have the lights when the pedestrians walk, give us more time for us to walk, so that when the other car turns, they'll have their time to turn.
Right. I mean, it's very clear what they've done with giving pedestrians more. I noticed that. When I'm crossing
Unfortunately,
the
it
street.
didn't happen to me because the light, it was for us, but the guy turned right away.
Turned anyway.
Yeah.
Marco?
So about 2 years ago at Transportation Alternative, together with Families for Safe Streets, we launched an effort called Vision Zero Street Design Standards, where we developed a set of standards that we believe that the city has to adopt every time they redesign a street, so that we create streets throughout the city that are worthy of the Vision Zero mantle. And some of those measures include protected bike lanes, pedestrian islands, and widened sidewalks for pedestrians. bus lanes where it's appropriate for certain routes, and a number of other measures. And we are pushing legislation right now in the City Council that would require the DOT to explain why they did not, in various instances, include those safety measures. And that will give the public insight into the priorities on our streets. And there's more than a majority of City Council members who have signed on in support. And so that's one major element that we will be pushing going forward.
Okay. Well, in a city where there are so many people and so many vehicles, this is obviously a very serious issue, and I'm glad that you're both addressing it and your organizations are addressing it. I'm afraid we're out of time. I want to thank Mark O'Connor and Karen Manrique for joining me today. For more information on transportation alternatives and families for safe streets, you can visit their websites at transalt.org and familiesforsafestreets.org. For One to One, I'm Cheryl McCarthy.